Hey everybody, it's me Edward Jones, aka Daniel Kuhn, and I'm back with a new video, and this is kind of like a video response to a video that Daniel got as my judge and Seller 559 had just done. This video is called Sell Your Cloak and Buy One. And this is just about the topic that they discussed on Christians in combat. Now, a little bit about myself as I sit here, wearing this homemade wife beater and, wearing this coonskin hat on my head. As you do see, I am wearing my 45 in the shoulder holster. Um, I didn't always, I'll put it like this. I wasn't that I was opposed to it. Before I bought my first firearm, I asked myself, um, could I, did I have it in me to use it in the capacity of in the capacity of violence? And knowing myself well enough, I came to the conclusion that yes, if I ever had to use a firearm or just about any instrument for that matter to inflict harm upon someone else. Um, Now, not going into the reason just yet, but that if I'm capable of doing so, yes, I am capable of doing such things with a firearm or with a knife or anything else. I am capable of doing that. Um, Now, then I have to ask myself later: Do I have do I would I do it with do I have the right motivation in mind as to what would bring me to that conclusion? And before I became a firearm owner, um, I became a Christian, and I had to I had to think about, is that, for my beliefs, do my beliefs allow me to use physical force? Now, there's plenty of examples in the Bible where physical force has been used to correct an issue, to correct, for, whether it be self defense or whether it be punishment for an egregious act. We can go back as far as Noah. When Noah stepped off the ark, the first law of the land was that no man should spill another man's blood. And if he does spill if a man spills another man's blood, in the case of murder, then his blood shall be spilled by man. So pretty cut and dry there, as to as to how to handle situations where someone is aggressing upon someone else. Many other examples. Let's take Judges, when the Israelites, they were under subjugation, by outside forces, and it was because of their own doing. They brought it upon themselves. But when they cried out for help to the Lord, he raised up one of the a leader amongst them. They were referred to as a judge. Samson's is a famous judge. There's Gideon, Ehud, I believe Deborah was a judge, and the last judge was Samuel. But judges were raised up to get people ready to go to fight for their freedom again. So there have been instances in the Bible where the people were the Israelites were under subjugation. They were enslaved, and they had to fight to become free again. But it was always under it always had the caveat of being at the right time for the right reason. Let's see what else I can think of. David, when David slew Goliath, he didn't just knock him out with a sling. He was 12, by the way. He chopped his head off. He knocked him out with a stone, then chopped his head off. And that was the start of everything. It was also noted that there was a form of gun control noted in the Old Testament when I think this is during King Saul's reign, when the Israelites became under subjugation by the Philistines. They there was no there were no there were no more swords. Now, could be that the people fell that the Israelites fell into such degradation that they no longer I got a ladybug on my camera. They no longer took up, no longer upheld the responsibility of keeping them their community safe. And so it was easy for the Philistines to to subjugate them. So they confiscated, and, chances are they confiscated any swords and any farm tools that had to be sharpened, like axes, scythes, mallets. They had to be taken to a Philistine blacksmith, and you had to pay a lot to have them sharpened, and that was done as a way to deter any chances of rebellion. Um, but yeah, that was noted in the Bible. Let's see. Um, when the wall was being rebuilt, in the book of Nehemiah, when the elders were they had all there was concern about whether they're going to face any threats from outside forces, and so Nehemiah he became a governor, appointed by King Xerxes to, I think it's to Judah, if I remember correctly. They were built the wall, and they had guards positioned in different spots along the building site. And if a threat was seen, a horn would be blown to signal everyone, and to show that everyone will be involved in this endeavor. Everybody who was working had a sword, and so it said that they carried their load with one hand and sword in the other, and everyone had a sword with them. Whether they were working or gathering water or resting, they had a sword with them. So even then, there were times that it was noted that they had to be armed and ready, again at the right time and for the right reason, to defend themselves. Now we can fast forward to the New Testament, and then there's the issue of turning the other cheek. I think a lot of Christians have fallen prey to to a misinterpretation of what that meant. Now, during the time that Jesus said, if someone slaps you with their right hand, you turn the other cheek to present your left cheek. Now, see if I can remember, if I can say this, properly. So, during that time, there was Roman rule, in Israel, and a Roman custom was, for an insult, you backhand slap somebody. It was the same as spitting on someone. So if you backhand slap someone, you slap it. So it's like if someone backhand slapped me with their right hand, they slapped me on the right side. They're slapping my right cheek. So what I did was I would present my left cheek. Roman custom was that anyone presented their left cheek, you struck them with your fist. And what that did was it showed that you were on equal footing with that person. So if I'm interpreting this correctly, you don't fight someone for an insult. What you do is you don't respond to the insult, but you put yourself in position to show that you're on equal footing with them, and and I guess it's up to them as to whether they want to carry it out to being going on full going on using their fist to strike you. And when they do that, then you can fight, because you didn't respond with violence to an insult. You responding violence with violence. And with this case, you're defending yourself. Again, the right time for the right reason. Now, before Jesus left, he asked the disciples, because he had sent them out. He sent them out to go spread the good news, spread the word. And when he came back, he said, "When I sent you out, were you lacking anything?" And this is in Luke. I think it starts in Luke 22:35, I believe it starts, or Luke 22:34. He asked them, "Were you lacking anything?" And they said, "No." And he said, "Now I say, if when you go out, take with you your purse, as well as your knapsack, or a scribe," as it was also in some interpretations would state. And then he says, "And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one." Now, your cloak was your outer garment. You sold so basically it's like selling a coat, if I remember correctly. You would sell your coat, and you would buy a sword. And one of his disciples said, "There are two swords amongst us." They found two swords on the wall and said, "There are two swords amongst us." And he said, "It's enough." What I believe that to mean was, if you don't have a sword, you sell one of your possessions to acquire a sword, because his disciples were safe when they were with him. They didn't worry. They didn't have to worry for anything. Um, a great example was with the storm when Jesus was lying. He lay his head on a like a little, I think it was like a little pillow. He was laying his head on the boat, and the storm was throwing the boat back and forth. And they thought they were going to die, and they cried out. They told him, and he told the storm to be calm, and the storm waters calmed. They didn't want for food. Whenever people, whenever during his sermons, the people were hungry, he fed the people with the little food that was available. He fed them, and they didn't have any worry um, for violence. Now, but it was recognized that all that was gonna change when Christ left this earth. So he gave his followers instructions, and one thing was he said was you take with your purse. I mean, take your money. Have your own money with you. You have your knapsack, which I guess, like I said, it could say knapsack or scribe, which I guess at the mean you just take any personal belongings that you would need to shelter yourself or to keep any of your belongings, and then you have with you a sword, because you are bound to meet violence along your travels. And when he was in the he was, when Jesus was in the garden about to be taken away, one of his disciples asked, "Should we use our swords to stop the men?" And one of them, without waiting for an answer, went and struck one of the temple slaves, cut off his ear. Christ said not to throw your sword away, but to put it back in its place, because this was supposed to happen. He was supposed to be taken away, and he healed the man's ear. I believe it was Peter who sliced the man's ear. And this go back to my point about why he said it was enough. Many of the men who were followed Jesus were fishermen. They were laborers. Not many of them, if any, you may have had a few who were fighters. So that when he said that it was enough, I believe what he was saying was amongst this group, only two of you were fighters, and I mean only two of you should have swords. Um, a sword in the hand of a fisherman, someone who did not know how to use a sword, was bound to hurt himself or fight at the wrong time and for the wrong reason, the wrong manner, and potentially make things worse. So fighting is not for everybody. That's another thing I learned. Now I understand that we do advocate. Many preppers to advocate for self defense and learning how to use weapons. But I have met people who I can say with confidence it would do them more harm than good to have a weapon in their hand. Now that's not to say that they should be. I mean, that's not to say that they should fall prey to any outside forces. What I believe that says is those who can fight now have an obligation to others who can't. Those who are they may be too weak or too infirm, or they just don't have that that fighting bone in them. I would say they don't have that fighting arm. They don't have that trigger finger, to bring us up to date. So Christians in combat. The Bible states, it has stated time and time again that combat, if it could be, and we're also going back to New Testament. Paul said, if all possible, live peaceably with one another. If all possible, if you can live peaceably, live peaceably. If not, your best bet is leave them alone. No, leave them alone. Leave them to their fate. But do you let yourself be attacked? Well, if you're responsible for your own bodies, then it would only be sound that you would defend yourself. Because if you didn't defend yourself and you are capable of fighting, what about those who aren't capable of fighting? Do you just leave them to be prey to the predators out there, or do we do our duty to protect those people? There must be. You gotta ask yourself. There has to be a reason as to why you're so good with a gun, or why you're so good with a knife. Um, Same as why you would ask, so why am I so good with accounting, or why am I so good with building things, or why am I so good with teaching others? And ultimately, it's to glorify the Lord. It's to use the talents and skills that He has endowed you with for good. Use it for good reasons. And I believe Christians who have the talent or have acquired the skill of combat, when some others may not have have that skill or acquired may not have those skills or have that talent, it is their job to use those same things for sound and just reasons. So I hope that answers any questions that people may have had about turning the other cheek, about is it right for Christians to engage in combat. I remember Daniel was my judge. He mentioned Samuel York. He was a conscientious objector during World War One who he wanted to be gaining a Medal of Honor for his actions. Um, so there are examples in our history that have shown that there are those who they didn't want to fight, but they were pushed into a corner, and they had to make a decision right there and then, but they had to do it. But we got to look at to see if they did it for the right reason and did use the right methods and things like that. So if you got any comments or questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section or do a video response. I know the video dragged on quite quite long, but I wanted to make these points so that there was little confusion as to what I was trying to say in the video. If you want to make a donation, check out the link in the description box or go to my homepage and look for the Give Up That Cheese button. And grab some complaints, please feel free to send me a PM. I'll see what I can do to address them. That's my video. Sell your cloak and buy one. It's like a video response to Seller 559 and Daniel. The Lord is my judge. I'm Edward Jones, Daniel Kuhn, and you guys take care.